All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a topic that causes, well, a massive amount of confusion in the tech industry: engineering career growth. We are going to establish exactly what defines your level as a software engineer. And right off the bat, I want you to forget those vague definitions like years of experience or how fast you can type out a function. We are going to break down the professional reality of the engineering ladder with absolute clarity.
Okay, let's dive into this. The biggest myth we need to aggressively dispel right now is the idea that leveling up simply means you write code faster, or that you just have more syntax memorized. That is entirely wrong. A junior, mid, senior, and staff engineer, they can all write code. The true measure of seniority is something completely different.
The core mantra of our explainer today is actually incredibly simple. The real difference between the levels is the size of the problem you can handle without creating chaos. Companies, they don't just pay engineers to type. They pay them to solve problems, reduce risk, design systems, and ultimately create business value. It's all about how your scope expands from a single line of code all the way up to an entire organizational system.
So, here is our 4-level engineering ladder. We'll be looking at Level 1, the junior engineer, Level 2, the mid-level engineer, Level 3, the senior engineer, and Level 4, the staff engineer. We'll evaluate each rung using the exact same 6 categories to reveal the true difference in scope, and then finish up with the mindset shift you need to actually level up.
Starting right at the foundation, Level 1, the junior engineer. Now, being a junior isn't a bad thing at all. It's simply a phase where an engineer still needs structure, guidance, and feedback to deliver safely. In coding, they are totally focused on just making it work. They follow the happy path, but they might naturally miss the edge cases, things like loading states, token expirations, or inconsistent API responses. They own assigned tasks, not entire outcomes. Architecturally, their job is to safely follow the existing project patterns, not invent brand new ones. And when it comes to debugging, they often rely on guessing or need a bit of guidance to isolate the actual issue. The defining trait of a truly great junior engineer is found in this comparison. Bad junior communication, that's disappearing for 2 whole days and then just popping up to say, "Hey, I'm stuck." A strong junior, on the other hand, says, "All right, I tried options A and B. The error happens right here at the authentication middleware. Is this the right direction to investigate?" The difference at this level isn't about knowing everything. It's about communicating clearly and effectively when you do not know.
Moving up the ladder, we hit Level 2, the mid-level engineer.
This is the crucial threshold where developers actually stop needing constant supervision and become truly independent contributors. Notice how the scope expands here. A mid-engineer doesn't just make code work. They make it maintainable. They own full features. So if they're building a transaction list, they handle the pagination, the empty states, the filters, and the API contracts. They take a requirement, break it down, test it, and deliver it. When debugging, they don't guess, they trace a bug logically across the front end, the network tab, and back-end layers to isolate the specific feature issue.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing the shift in perspective. A junior might just build the visible UI piece so it looks right on the screen. But the mid-engineer proactively builds the entire feature flow, protecting consistency across the application. They communicate trade-offs before they become production issues. For instance, they're the ones warning the team if a back-end response lacks the metadata needed for an accurate UI state.
Okay, let's step up to Level 3, the senior engineer.
Now, this is where a vast majority of developers get permanently stuck. Why? Because they mistakenly think coding features faster equals seniority. It doesn't. A senior engineer owns outcomes, not just tickets. They reduce risk. Their mindset shifts entirely away from asking, "Can I build this?" to asking, "Wait, should we build it this way?" Architecturally, they're defining product-level patterns, like creating a single reusable data table architecture instead of letting 5 developers build 5 different tables. They improve the whole team's delivery, not just their own individual output.
Contrast the localized debugging of a mid-engineer with the systematic crisis management of a senior. When production breaks, and it will, a senior does not panic. They don't just randomly restart servers hoping for the best. They systematically ask, okay, what changed? Who is affected? Is this a data issue or a code issue? They check the logs, define the safest fix, and manage the incident calmly. That is senior-level judgment in action. And that brings us to the top of our ladder, Level 4, the staff engineer. We need to be absolutely clear about something here. A staff engineer is not just an older senior. It is a completely different role focused heavily on technical direction. Staff engineers create immense technical leverage. They might design a shared authentication platform or an event-driven architecture used by multiple teams across the entire company. Their direct code output might actually be small, but the impact, massive. They own technical direction, they align executives and product managers, and their decisions can literally save a company months of wasted engineering work. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference in depth. A shallower approach to architecture might just chase trends, saying, hey, let's just use microservices. But staff-level judgment requires asking the really hard, operational questions. Do we actually need them? What is the operational cost? Does our team even have the DevOps maturity for this? How do we handle distributed transactions? They don't just pick tools. They evaluate long-term systemic impact.
So, that brings us to our final section, the mindset shift for leveling up.
We've defined the ladder, sure, but how do you actually climb it? It requires addressing the biggest mistake developers make. The promotion myth is thinking, I just need to write more code. The reality is that as you climb, your value actively shifts away from local fixes, assigned tasks, and individual code output. It shifts aggressively toward decision quality, identifying the right business problems, and improving overall team productivity. If you're just waiting for tasks and you aren't communicating risk, well, you might be experienced, but you aren't truly senior. Here are the exact practical growth steps. To go from junior to mid, you have to stop asking, what should I do, and start asking, what is the expected outcome and what edge cases should I handle? To go from mid to senior, stop asking, how do I build this, and start asking, is this the right solution for the product? And to reach staff, you must ask, how do I make multiple teams move faster with way less risk?
So the crucial point is right here in how the scope dramatically scales at each and every rung. You go from making code work to creating technical leverage, from owning a single task to owning an entire system direction, from asking for help to aligning leadership. This professional blueprint shows exactly how your value transforms as you move up. We've laid out the entire framework. It's not about years in a seat. It is about ownership, judgment, and impact. So I want to leave you with a final, slightly challenging question to really reflect on. Look at the scope you actually own right now. Are you operating as a junior, a mid, a senior, or a staff engineer? And more importantly, what specific steps are you taking today to move to that next level?